U.S.-China trade tensions continue to rise as President Donald Trump vows a 100% increase of tariffs on China. That's in response to Beijing's unprecedented new rare earth controls. All of this is happening amidst President Trump's efforts to bring manufacturing back to America. So yet again, we have to ask ourselves, is there a real possibility of economic decoupling between the United States and China? Joining me now to discuss is Louis Navellier, chairman and founder of Navellier Associates, and Rod D. Martin, founder and CEO of Martin Capital. Gentlemen, welcome. Louis, are we seeing the U.S. decoupling from China, and is that even possible right now?
No, it's not possible. China actually needs us. They waived their duties on a lot of U.S. products because they desperately need them, and we need their rare earths, their magnets. So I'm sure cooler heads will prevail.
Rod, what is your view on this situation?
Well, that's correct. I mean, there's no question China needs to negotiate with us because they need our export market. They need to be able to have a cordial working relationship with the United States. In my view, they are negotiating. They are taking a page out of Donald Trump's negotiation playbook and hitting us with an extreme demand right at the end as we're trying to get a deal put together. And I think that deal will be put together. And I think the president made it pretty clear when he did impose 100% tariff, but he delayed it until November 1. So that tells you there's maneuvering going on, and I think we're close to a deal.
And Louis, what do you think is next here? I mean, in terms of maneuvering?
Well, I mean, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is having a meeting on this pretty darn quick. And then hopefully President Trump and Xi will meet at the APEC conference in South Korea. One of the things that complicates these negotiations is President Xi can't travel very far. You know, he's worried about losing control in his own country. So he can make, day trips to Vietnam or South Korea, but he doesn't have time to go all the way across the country to see us and visit us. And, under Trump 1.0, he was up the street from me, bought a 747 SP in, and they took over an entire hotel and erected barriers, and they were trying to do business deals. But he can't travel now because he's afraid he's going to lose power. That's why he fired a general, another top official recently.
Rod, maybe you can expand on that. What is the state of Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping's power and of the Chinese Communist Party more broadly in the state of their country?
I think that's exactly right. I think Xi is greatly constrained right now by what's going on within his own regime. And we're seeing that with this rolling purge in the military. Whether that is Xi purging people or Xi's people being purged really makes no difference. There's tremendous instability there inside the most important arm of the Communist Party, and that indicates that Xi is in some measure of trouble. So, I agree. He's constrained in his movements. He's constrained in what he's able to do. And some of what we just saw in this rare earths threat is probably responsive to that turmoil underneath the surface.
And Louis, at the same time, we have the United States, at least the Trump administration, the people under Trump are fully aligned during his, with his MAGA agenda. He's had 4 years between 2020 and 2024 to ensure that he selects people who are strong behind him. In some senses, the U.S. is quite strong right now. So how do you look at the state of the U.S. versus the state of China, and who has the upper hand here?
Well, it's very simple. China is in a demographic decline. They've had deflation since May of 2022. Their interest rates are lower than Japan, and they may have to devalue their currency next. They're in deep trouble. On the other hand, all this onshoring is causing dramatic GDP growth, and they'll probably have 5% GDP growth next year. It's not inflationary. It's mostly the construction of all the data centers and onshoring semis, pharma, automotive, maybe eventually furniture. We'll see. You know, it depends where they put the tariffs on. But yeah, we're in the midst of an economic boom. It's uneven. It's not a perfect economy, but we're in a lot better shape than China. And demographically, we're superior because we're younger. We're still very pro-family in the South and Mountain West. And we do assimilate our immigrants, of course, but Trump obviously wants them to be documented.
Sure. So, Rod, you know, we have China obviously not on the same footing as the U.S. Now they're announcing this rare earth controls, which garnered a 100% tariff increase from Trump. Can you explain the seriousness of these rare earth controls that would, you know, why would they bring such a response from Trump?
Well, the seriousness, of course, is that a modern economy is very dependent on rare earths. You can't build an F-35. You can't build a semiconductor chip. You can't build anything of consequence anymore without them. And this is an atrophy on the U.S. part that is just inexcusable. We were supplying most of our rare earths needs in the 70s, and then we let that just outsource to China over a number of years in a way that it's just inexcusable. These are national security issues. You actually have to have domestic production of these things, just like you need to have some reasonable amount of pharmaceutical supply chain domestically, because you can't afford to have your population cut off from such things. So what Donald Trump is doing is he's trying to jumpstart a rare earths industry here. China only produces about 60% of the world's rare earths in terms of raw supply, but they refine 92% of the refined supply. We have to reshore some of that here. And I think the long-term result of what she is doing is you see China's monopoly broken over the next several years at an actually accelerating rate precisely because of this hostile action.
So, Louis, can the United States onshore, rare earths at a rate fast enough so that China isn't able to use that leverage over the United States?
Probably not, but we're trying. Obviously, the government took an interest in MP materials. I recommend a stock symbol is IDR. They have rare earth interest, but it's not monetized yet. They've made an alliance with somebody to start, refining it. But it takes a while to do all this stuff. So we have to do business with China in the meantime, and hopefully cooler heads will prevail.
Rod, since Trump's tariffs announcement on April 2nd, we've seen all these flare-ups of trade tensions between the United States and China, where trade tensions between the U.S. and other countries, most other countries, have more or less simmered out. Definitely not the kind of tension we're seeing between the U.S. and China. So what hope is there at this point of the United States and China reaching some kind of mutually agreed upon trade deal?
Oh, I think we're going to. I think they can't really live without us, and for the time being, we can't really live without them. Now, Trump sees them as our largest geopolitical adversary by far. Trump sees us as being in something of a friendlier version of the Cold War here. He understands that they routinely threaten to attack Taiwan, that they have other interests that are adverse to ours, and that they're expanding those interests wherever they can. So he very much wants to take a page out of Reagan's book and constrain their ability to act in a way that kind of defangs them. And the truth is that strategy probably works because, as Louis pointed out, they are in extreme demographic decline. Yi-Fu Zhan, who is a senior scientist at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, has shown that odds are pretty good that they lose 75% of their population by the end of the century, which is just unprecedented. And we may see something similar in South Korea and some other places, but China in particular is faced with a tremendous structural collapse over time, because what you end up with is a smaller and smaller number of young people supporting a larger and larger proportion of the population that's elderly, in a climate where most people's retirement savings has been put into real estate. Well, if you have a shrinking population, real estate values are going to tank. So they're really in trouble. They need to grab what they can right now. And Donald Trump is trying to constrain that on the military side while working out trade deals that make sense for both countries.
Louis, with just 30 seconds, because I want to hear from both of you on this, President Trump is expected to meet Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping in South Korea in a couple of weeks. What do you think could come out of that meeting, or is it just a bit too far away to say?
I think Trump will tell the world that they're buddies and everything's going to be fine. That's what he likes to do.
And Rod?
Yes, I agree with that. And I think that for most practical purposes, that's going to be true. Both countries need each other in trade for the time being. That will lessen over time, but not very quickly.
All right. Louis Navellier, chairman and founder of Navellier Associates, and Rod Martin, founder and CEO of Martin Capital. Thank you both so much for your insights.
Thank you.